Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Premiership Podcast. We're your host, Jacob.
And Elijah.
And let's get crack-a-lacking into the final round of the home and away season. After 24 weeks of AFL football, the top 8 has been decided, and medalists such as the Coleman Medal and so on and so forth have been chosen. I guess we'll start off with the Collingwood-Essendon game, where Collingwood absolutely destroyed the Bombers.
Yeah, it wasn't close. And yeah, this is definitely reflected in our power rankings too. Essendon kicked 3 goals 13 for the game. It was
horrible.
not the best showing for their
That's horrible.
for their final game of the season, and that's a couple of weeks in a row, which they have absolutely done nothing. So, I guess outplayed nearly every single way, just completely inefficient. Essendon, Collingwood, they just secure the win. They secure their top final spot. Not too hard at all. I guess if you're on Essendon's side, there are some things to look forward for next season. He's up for some good players. Setterfield had an alright game. Zach Merritt, Laverde, these kind of guys. Parrish, they'll still be there. Langford, Nicky Martin. They're still going to be there next season. They're still going to be good role players. It's just getting more experience into these guys and getting some consistency in. So there's a lot of guys, especially in the last couple of weeks, it's not all in it. All right, so Redmond's going to be back for the next couple of years. He signed a new contract. Hopefully he gets his mojo back together. A whole bunch of other stuff too. So they should be okay, Essendon, but they just need to get more consistency and be more experience into some of these guys, because that premiership clock, it's kind of almost over, just in terms of what they have on their list. I feel not quite to expectations, so I should rephrase that as.
That's fair enough. Collingwood, without Nathan Murphy and Darcy Moore, their key defenders, the big tall defenders, against a bit of a underwhelming Bombers, would you say?
Oh,
very.
Witches hats. I wouldn't say underwhelming.
Witches hats, and yeah, it'll definitely reflect on the power rankings, even though their position on the ladder is 11th, I think, 11th or 12th. Collingwood gained some momentum going into finals, and they get their week off.
Yep. I guess, Collingwood against Melbourne next week, but this game aside, because it's a bit of a doozy, really, I haven't been too impressed with Collingwood's performance. Are we going into this now or later?
We'll have this argument later. But,
all right, we'll have this argument later, but I'm not too hard on the Pies. I think it's a whole bunch of rubbish, and this is just a throwaway game.
It's for Elijah. It's not a hot 4-20 pie. It's a very ice cold pie.
It's a soup that's been. It's a nice vegetable soup that's been let out, untouched for the last 3 hours, and it's very cold, and no one wants it, and it's going to keep sitting up there. Oh yeah, I would say it's off. It was freshly made, but no one wants it. It's cold now. It's no.
Anyway, on to Fremantle Hawthorn, where Fremantle upset the Hawks 93-56.
Yep. I went to this one before I guess you can't tell, I'm a bit unwell. But it was all Fremantle from basically the beginning. Hawks, bit of a dismal performance, if I can be honest. I mean, Amon had a good game. Dylan Moore, as normal. Yeah, he's always playing well. And Sicily down back, great stuff. The usual stuff you'd expect from Hawthorn, the usual role players. But in the end, just across the board, just not as much effort as we're used to. Feels like most of the Hawks games they go to, this kind of ends up being the same story. But Fremantle just played really well. And they tend to do that at the MCG anyway, which is good for them. Brisbane need to take a page out of their book on that behalf. But no, Brayshaw, McGuinness could not stop Sarong or Brayshaw. I didn't even know if he played on them. I think I looked at the team sheet before the game and it said he was on Jordan Clark. Which
The halfback flanker.
not sure why, but either way, Brayshaw and Sarong just kind of ran a mark. 32 and 33 disposals each, if you don't mind. But some good signs for Freo. Hopefully we'll be back next season. I would expect as much. I know that it's Bobby Hill. No, Liam Henry was wanting out of the team for next year, down to Victoria. But you know, I think there'll still be some good pieces. You know, still stay, develop, and I think in no time, Freo will be back in finals and they'll get things together because they've had some good pieces throughout the season. It's just not all at the same time. So
I'm going to have to disagree with you, Elijah. I think Fremantle have had a failed season.
well, they have had a failed season, but I think there's just bits and pieces. They just need to put it all together, more consistent.
I do agree with that. The Luke Jackson and Sean Darcy combo, in my opinion, didn't work as well as they thought it would. But other than that, the Hawks next year, they'd hope for a hot and fiery start with Mitch Lewis back. But I don't think Mitch Lewis will ever survive a full season, mainly due to the fact that the way he plays is very strenuous on the body. So he will have weeks off next year to recuperate, or he might have a week-long injury or just general soreness. So the Hawks' main focus for next year is either developing Kajitsky into a better forward who we will keep, or we'll have to find another young or even trade for a key forward who can assist Mitch Lewis's workload.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know if Cozzy's kind of what we're looking for right now. I know he's on the list and he's progressing okay. And I know Scrimshaw's also had to come forward and help with that as well. But yeah, Scrimshaw, which we also saw in this game as well as the week prior. But yeah, I feel like because you go to the draft as well, you have the third pick,
and we got Brandon Ryan as well.
Yes,
so
yes, we do.
Forgot about him.
So we have a lot of good pieces, and
Green, Fergus Green.
Yes,
Fergus Green.
Yeah, he's injured. So we have the pieces. It's kind of just working it out. We're still getting there, right? I'd expect finals in the next 2-3 years, not next year. After.
Yeah, and I reckon we'll build up from there. We'll be like 8, 7, 6, and then fight for that top 4 position.
I expect it faster than that, but yeah.
On to North Melbourne Gold Coast, unless you've got anything else to say. North Melbourne have just come out of the clouds here, winning a game that they probably shouldn't win if they wanted that first pick. 132-97. North Melbourne just played them crazy from the get-go.
Yeah, North Melbourne's. I guess the Suns had most of the control in that first half. First quarter and a bit, to say, but it was all North Melbourne from the second quarter onwards, and Nick Larkey 9 goals. You'll have to see it for a North supporter, in a sense. If this is a normal game, there weren't really stakes to it. Great game. Scott, fantastic. You had Larkey, as I said before, he had 9 goals, 11 marks. And then you had Taron Thomas. Was he retiring end of this season? I think.
Taron Thomas?
No, someone else. I can't remember. I don't know if he was retiring from North. He had 6 tackles. Yeah, he led North there. But yeah, good game from North, in a sense. Right? There's no stakes. Take away the stakes. We ignore the factors. Last game of the season. It was It was a good performance from North Melbourne. We'll get to it in a second. We're talking about the actual stakes. Or
No, I'm not.
okay, go for it. Yeah.
Um, the fact that a team finishes last or second last and Nick Larkey came third in the Coleman really says something about the kid. If he gets firing in a good team, he could potentially kick 100 goals in a season because 72 goals for a team who placed second last, probably should have been last, um, is really good to see moving forward. They can really build something with forward line they have the young midfield that they have, and the defensive structure with Ben Mackay probably leaving through the trade period. So hopefully they get something good with him as well. Good from him, but good on North Melbourne. Honestly, they got their dub. They've got their momentum going into pre-season, and hopefully Clarkson can build something after that.
Yeah. I mean, he's 25 now, so he's kind of entering that
Prime.
peak prime of his career. And he ends up third in the Coleman medal. He 9 goals on the weekend, and I think I know he plays for North Melbourne, but I saw on Twitter or Rex, it's called Twitter, but the goal leaders for the season, if you take away the games they played against North Melbourne and West Coast, Larky's smashing them. So, granted, he plays for North Melbourne, so usually they're either on the back end of that or he's the one kicking bags. Say what you will about that, but he's smashing them, right? Kurno's not even on that list. So, say what you will about the kid, he's really good. He just needs to keep the motivation up. Assuming he's this main goal kicker, I think, he's just going to be the forward line for this team. Good to see him have some help, but yeah.
And Gold Coast going into the pre-season with a new coach, Damien Hardwick. Bit of another Gold Coast blunder season. They just couldn't get anything under their belt after Shui Ju left.
Yep. I guess it's the same old for the Suns, really. One shy of their best last year. They only got 9 wins for the season. Hopefully Dimmer can kind of pull some things together and get them closer to finals. I know it's going to be a tough race to get there, especially with teams like Fremantle, Adelaide, who missed out pushing in. And the Bulldogs, notably. But it'll be tough, but I think they have a lot of the pieces they need, and I think Dimmer should be able to pull them there. It's just the same old. I guess the one new thing for Gold Coast is Matt Morrell broke the most amount of tackles in a season by any player.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh. Yeah. Good on the young boy.
I mean, he had 9 this game, right, with 33 touches. I want to try pull it up, but he's had a very under the radar season.
For a number 1 draft pick as well. I remember when he burst onto the scene in 2020. He was absolute gun, and then he did his shoulder. So he's living up to the expectation of a pick 1 with the amount of tackles that he produced, if that is true. But whilst Elijah is trying to find that, I'll move on to the Brisbane St Kilda game where Brisbane beat St Kilda by 12 points, 9-18-72 to 60. The only thing really Brisbane was held back by was their efficiency in front of goal. They secured themselves a home final at the Gabba, so that really increases their likelihood of making a grand final, unless they choke, which they have done in the past. And St Kilda nearly bringing the Lions' run at the Gabba down, but Brisbane just held on with more scoring shots, and they were just a lot better than St Kilda. Lockie Neal, absolute gun. Joe Danaher, even though he missed from 10 metres in front, good player in that game. The return of Jack Hayes for the Saints was a welcomed one. I'm a big fan of Jack Hayes. So he's returned. Tim Membry with 3 goals. He's getting back into some form as well. And really exciting to see these 2 teams going to the finals, especially St Kilda. They've had a bit of a hiatus from finals, and it's good to see them back in the finals race.
I mean, the Saints have always kind of been there. They just haven't do much in finals. Trend for the Saints, I guess, recently has always been they get there, but they're not really deserving of it. They kind of just fall off, but they're in good form going into it. And this game, I guess Brisbane are kind of leading the way most of the time. It was just the matter of the Saints just trying to raise them, basically. But they were in it a lot of the time. Which is good to see coming into finals against a team which I personally rank as the best team in the comp. I mean, you still had Membry, 3 goals. Sinclair had 30 touches. Yeah, Rookie had 9 marks. It is what it is. The Saints will take that. Yes, in terms of Brisbane, right, Saints are doing well. They secure 2nd place. Right, so the Saints will play the Giants and the Lions will play Port. First week of finals. I guess, yeah, they just get the job done. You have anything else to add for this one?
Nah.
All right, cool. I guess in terms of Matt Rao, most tackles in the season, record broken. So that's 190 this season.
190 tackles.
Yeah, and that breaks Devon Smith from 2018 with 186.
Matt Rao really likes hugging people.
I wouldn't phrase it that way, but sure. Yeah.
I was saying that as a joke. On to the Bulldogs Geelong game. Bulldogs needed to win this game for any sort of chance of making the finals, and they did, but they unfortunately got foiled with GWS beating Carlton, which we'll get to. Bulldogs didn't really win this game until the last quarter when they really got onto a roll. But yeah, Geelong, sort of an end of an era sort of thing. That's just on I reckon a small rebuild for the Cats because they've still got some exciting youthful players coming through. Jai Clark, who's still yet to make a name for himself, but played a couple games this season. They've got Tanner Bruin and Bose coming through as well. I feel like Dangerfield will move to a more forward role because we've seen him go forward and absolutely conk him. Isaac Smith now leaves the team, absolute champion, retiree, and Tom Hawkins and Zach Tui are going for one more season, as well as Jeremy Cameron finally getting his shoulder fixed. Yeah, I don't really see much happening with the Cats over the off season, but just looking at the draft and recuperating after a bit of a, well, I'd say it's a failed season because they can't really back up what they did last year, but it was to come eventually. And the Bulldogs, they've got a lot of thinking to do after a bit of a failed season as well under Luke Beveridge. With the quality that they have in their team, they should really be attacking that top 8 fiercely. And the only really problem that they have is their depth going forward and back. So, how do you see this game?
I guess Dogs have left it very late to prove why they deserve to play finals, even if they don't. Cats next season, they're just going to look for future draft picks over the off season and build it from there. It's end of the era, good on them, and they'll look for the future. In terms of the Bulldogs, they didn't deserve to play finals. I know they, at that point in time, before the last game, they were in the 8. They didn't deserve it. So, definitely a failed season. This list is comparable to the top 4. I've said in previous weeks, episodes, and other people will echo in the media, but they didn't deserve this at all. Obviously, they get the win, right? But they should realistically be pushing for top 4, not to make the 8 and rely on another team to put them in for them. So, hey, I think was it Bailey Smith though? He got signed for another contract. Was it today?
He's stated that he wants to stay at the Dogs, so nothing has gone through for a contract yet.
Okay, so I think there might something rumor or something maybe about him getting traded out. But if he wants to stay, then he might stay maybe. I was looking for draft picks, but yeah, no, I didn't have much else to say for the Bulldogs. They should be pushing for top 4, not to say their own now. I think something drastic needs to happen at the Bulldogs this off season because you can't have this again. Not again. Even last season, they finished what 6th or 7th.
7th. Yeah, they versus the Dockers.
Yeah.
Who finished 5th? So they finished 8th last year.
Okay, wow. So worse than I thought. And even that season, they should be up there. Bontempelli's 27. Right. He's coming out of that peak of his career. Trelaw's 30. Right. Libba's 31. Lob's 30. Tim English is 26. I don't know how old McRae is.
Tim English is 26.
Yeah.
Oh. I thought he was younger.
McRae don't play.
I thought he was like 23.
McRae don't play. Either way, they're too old to be settling for where they are now. Something big needs to happen, I think, personally, on the coaching side.
I say give Luke Beveridge one more chance. I say give him one more chance.
Why?
Even though in the media they've stated that the players aren't really a fan of him or he's not the coach for them, you've got to remember that he is the type of, I wouldn't say it's the type of guy, he did bring them their first premiership, and it was only 2 years ago that they made another grand final. So I say give him another year to prove himself, sort of like a Ken Hinkley, and then go from there. If they don't do good by halfway next season, then I expect Luke Beveridge to leave the Dogs or be sacked.
But
get the sack.
At that point, if you wait until halfway through the next season, the season's already over. Because if you're in it, why would you sack him?
If you're in it, then yes.
Wasting another season.
If you're in it, then yes.
But, I don't see a reason why they shouldn't get rid of him at the end of the season. He needs to be gone, in my opinion. But
do you think Gian Siracusa should go in for him?
I don't care who takes it. Anyone. He can take my under-14s coach for all I care. And mate,
fair enough.
He was good, right? As far as under-14 coaches go, he was great, right? And I take it. I think honestly, put him in over Bevo, and I think more stuff will happen. Just an opinion, but
anyway, Adelaide. Over the Eagles, 123 to 78. I've never seen a person more hungry for a Coleman medal than Taylor Walker, kicking 9 goals, and he was having pot shots from everywhere. West Coast moving forward, the only real player I see them building a team around is Oscar Rowan. Oscar Rowan is their only All-Australian pick in the 44 squad, and he rightfully deserves to be there. And Oscar Rowan's an absolute gun. I love him. Crows moving forward into next year is their sort of villain arc. They're going for some revenge. They should definitely be attacking that top 8 next year. They should most definitely be in the top 8 at the moment. But we discussed that last week. The only real thing I see the Crows needing an improvement on is their defense. They do need like a big defender or an intercept defender, because I don't think Hinge or Butts will be that sort of player. I know that Zerk Thatcher wants to go back to South Australia, but I think he's more inclined to going to Port Adelaide, but we'll have to wait and see. And with Duday probably going to the Lions next year, we'll have to see what happens with the Crows backline. But they do have an elite forward line and an elite midfield squad with Crouch. Crouch most likely leaving the club as well. He might be going to Geelong.
Interesting.
From what I heard.
I don't know why anyone would want to go to Geelong just because of the state they're kind of in, unless because they got friends there. But or all local. But actually, yeah, there's a lot of good reasons. But anyway, yeah, I mean the Crows did what they had to do. If they won a couple of weeks ago, they'd been 8th, but not to be, I guess. They'll definitely make top 8 next season though. The Crows, they got all the pieces, everything's together. I know Sloan's added an extra year to his contract. He's not. He shouldn't really be playing AFL level, but he signed it anyway. And yeah, Tex. If it wasn't for 9 goals, 4 behinds, no, it could have been 13 goals, and then we would have really had a race. But no, yeah, it's just a bit too short there. And yeah, the Crows definitely look for next year. Eagles rebuild starting next year.
The only problem I see with the Crows is I understand that they've got Darcy Fogarty and Rolly Thilthorpe, but after Tex Walker, who comes after him? Does Darcy Fogarty become the new Tex Walker and Rolly Thilthorpe be that big, tall forward like Harry Mackay? Or do you think they need another sort of key forward because Rolly Thilthorpe will be that second ruckman that he has been this year as well?
To my understanding, Fogarty's always kind of been that Tex clone. And then Thilthorpe's kind of been the full forward slash ruck. So, kind of keep it the way it is. Obviously, if Tex goes, it's a big hole to fill. But they'll definitely find something in there. And I think Fogarty at the moment is probably the guy who can kind of just very seamlessly just refill that role because he's doing it anyway. But he can. Tex is still there next season though, right? So
yeah, but I'm looking to the future, like 2026.
Yeah. So
2027.
But now I don't think they have to worry too much. But I think using the draft picks they have this year, they might start looking at something, developing some other pieces.
Yeah. Port Adelaide, Richmond, 94-63. This was actually a really well fought game by Richmond until about halfway in the third quarter, where Port Adelaide just ran away with it, securing a third spot, which I'm not sure whether or not they wanted to verse Brisbane or Collingwood, but Port Adelaide got the chocolates, and if they lost and Melbourne won, Collingwood would be versing Port Adelaide. But Port Adelaide are now versing Lions. Richmond moving forward, Taranto, Hopper, build a team around that. Jack Rewalt's retiring. Tom Lynch is nearing his retirement as well. Trent Cotchin is now gone as well. Dusty Martin's entering the twilight of his career. So Richmond's definitely on a rebuild, 100%.
Yeah, well, they have to. They've just lost too much with nothing to repay it, so they have to rebuild. In terms of just this game, Dusty had a good one. Like everyone had a really good game.
A fantastic game.
Yeah, 33 touches, 5 tackles, and a goal. But just overall, this is a very good game. It's only at the very end.
It was.
Port really ran away with it. But I guess, yeah, all in all, is what it is. I think ideally Port play Collingwood. But, look, yeah, I guess it's what it is. They'll take that, which means they lose to Brisbane, they play the Saints or Saints and Giants, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Saints Giants, in Adelaide.
I
So
I do see Port Adelaide making a prelim. That's their
yeah,
that's it. That's their. I'd probably say that's their minimum.
yeah,
And their roof is a grand final.
yeah. And I guess I'd say the same thing for Brisbane as well if they were in this position.
Mm-hmm.
But just because of the strength
Correct.
of the home teams in the top four,
Mm-hmm.
I guess five really.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to expect an away team to come over interstate and knock off, say, Collingwood or Melbourne or
Mm-hmm.
Brisbane, even Carlton, right? I know some other teams like Carlton, St Kilda, Giants. They can travel, right? They can do it.
Mm.
But Port Adelaide, ideally you'd have the home ground advantage. You'd win those.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that, they make prelims, right? Lose in
Yeah.
Brisbane, win in Adelaide, lose in Melbourne. But that's getting ahead of ourselves.
We'll have to wait and see because anything can happen in the final series. For all we know, the Giants might make another grand final.
Yeah, that's one thing I will not say. The Giants are probably not making the finals just because of the draw, but
You never know. You never know.
no, but Saints, then probably Port, and then Collingwood or Melbourne. Probably Melbourne. It's not looking good.
They did it in 2019. They beat Collingwood in that prelim.
That's true, but considering the other competition around, it's hard to see them getting there. That's all.
And I'm not trying to make a case for GWS. I'm just trying to say to you viewers that yes, even though there are favourites within the top 8, anything can happen in the final series. There will be upsets. There will be people who make a name for themselves. So it's about players rising up to the big stage. So talking about the big stage, Melbourne and Sydney both making finals, but Melbourne getting the chocolate 77-56. Sydney had this game by the throat, and then Melbourne just ran away with it. The big sort of news to come out of this one is Jack Malcolm doing his ACL. It was a really close game as well, may I just say. Melbourne was leading, then Sydney was leading by 20 points at one stage, and then Melbourne just ran away with it in the end. Christian Petrarca was an absolute gun as well. And I'd probably say that Melbourne have they actually do. Melbourne do have besides Brisbane, they have the most finals experience within the top 8. So taking that into consideration, Melbourne will go into versing Collingwood with a bit of confidence, knowing that they do have finals experience under their belt. The only real concern I see with Melbourne going into the finals is their forward line. Van Rooyen, how he handled the heat. Who goes in for Malcolm? Do they bring back Ben Brown? Do they bring Tom McDonald? Do they bring Josh Kaki? Who comes in for Malcolm? And for Sydney, they get another chance of reclaiming a Premiership Cup after last year's disappointing thrashing against Geelong in last year's grand final. Though unlikely, Sydney ultimately make the top 8 and give themselves a slight chance of regaining that September glory that they missed out on last year, with a bit more finals experience as well under their belt, but losing the likes of the champion Lance Franklin.
Yeah, pretty much what you said. This game was kind of close most of the way. If it just wasn't for Sydney's inaccuracy, they could have probably closed it out in the third quarter. Because I mean, yeah, half time was 3-8. They were down. And in the end, 7-14. Not ideal at all, especially compared to Melbourne's 11-11, which means they had won the scoring shot, but I mean, you close that third quarter out with a bit more accuracy. If it was just 14 goals, 7, I think they win that. So, I guess, yeah, Sydney giving themselves a chance. Melbourne, they look up top 4. They play Collingwood. Melksham will be a big out.
Mm.
We will see how they feel that, but I still have full faith that they'll get the job done against Collingwood. Which may be a controversial opinion. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've had plenty of controversial opinions going into finals this year, but we'll save those full predictions brackets for next week.
For next week.
Yes.
Yes. With Melksham's injury, it's probably career ending. Would you say that? Because of his age, he's 31, 32. He's
I don't know. I wouldn't say career ending. I don't think. He'll still give another crack. All right, 30 wasn't the end of the world because you'd think. Like, okay, look at like the age kind of demographics. 28 is kind of the end of your peak.
Mm-hmm.
Right, heading into your 30s. It's only like 3 years off that. Depends how long he's out for, really. And
ACLs a year.
Yeah.
Usually.
So depends how fast he can get back into it. Like, if he can get back into it for finals next year, he's okay. But, yeah, I still think he has a little bit in it because he's still a very instrumental piece to this Melbourne side. So, I mean, it just depends how Melbourne goes next year and if he fits back in, I think. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Do you have anything else to say?
Not really for this one. I guess the two sides giving us a bit of a taste for September. And, yeah, good show.
Another 2 teams coming into September is Carlton and GWS. GWS needed to win this game, and bloody oath they did. 105-73. GWS secure their top 8 position, kicking out the Bulldogs, who didn't deserve a top 8 position whatsoever after losing against the Eagles. Congratulations to Charlie Curnow, who won the Coleman medal, kicking the 3rd goal of the game, kicking 2 in that first quarter. He's going to be very instrumental going into September. He's very exciting, and it is a very tough matchup to go on. The downfall of GWS is the downfall of their lead defender, Taylor. Is it Lewis Taylor or Zach Taylor?
Sam Taylor. So not
Sam Taylor. Zach.
Sam Taylor, yeah.
Sam Taylor has gone down with a hamstring injury.
It's during the week, so he didn't even play this game. But yeah, the Giants, I guess you wouldn't expect them to do too much this season. Sorry, off season, September, just because they say they're in the teams they're playing, yada yada. But this game, all things considered, considering that too, they've definitely played above expectations, and I guess Carlton they still hold into 5th, but this was well fought by the Giants. There's a big sound. Very big sound. And they, like Whitfield, he had a great game. 32 touches, 7 marks. He had Cornelio with 2 goals, 28 touches. Toby Green had 4 goals. Right? And I want to shout out Tom Green as well with 35. Both Greens have been All-Australian form all season. I expect them to make All-Australian team too. Like, one of the best, like, top 2 best small forwards in the game. And I dare say arguably the best midfielder in the game in Tom Green.
Tom Green, the best midfielder.
Yeah. Number 12 for the Giants. Yeah, I would say so. So those two should make the All-Australian team. But these guys, right, they pulled up. They wanted to play. They got the job done. And I guess, yeah, Carlton, they lose a bit of their momentum going into September, but is what it is. And they definitely looking for some redemption against Sydney in the first week.
It'll be a good first week of finals,
It will.
let me tell you. But let's just hope the one thing that I'm hoping for this final series is a close grand final. We don't want another smashing.
Well, yeah. Look, if Brisbane makes it, I don't know, man. Or Port Adelaide makes it, I don't know. Because all these teams travelling and with the inexperience, I don't know. We hope for close grand finals every season, but it never comes because of that. Right? You'll have teams who go interstate and they'll play really well, home ground, whatever, and then travel to MTG and they get smashed. Right? Or it's the other way around. Right? Where you have your favourites. For example, they'll go play interstate, and then they'll get smashed and they're out. It's like all of a sudden you're left with these teams of inexperience and all these different factors, and it just turns out to just not work out. Like last season, Geelong, like the most experienced you could possibly be for the position they were in, swept the floor, like swept them completely. The Swans, who were young, they only had a couple pieces, who actually knew what they're doing there, and it just turned out to be a mess. So, credit to the Swans. They still, throughout the season, they played good enough to be there, even in finals. It just, on the day, they just weren't ready. Which is fair enough. That's what it comes down to a grand final day. So, I guess, what teams can feasibly make it close? Teams which are either both in that same situation, or teams which aren't in that similar situation. So, what that entails, who knows? But yeah.
With that as well, we have 4 interstate teams and 4 Melburnian teams as well. So there's an even split.
Yep. How long those teams last, I don't know. Just because you have 3 home games first week, including both elimination finals in Melbourne. So how long the Giants, Swans last, all right, and then the Lions, Port, right? How long they last will it might get ugly if you're an interstate fan, but yeah.
The Melburnian bias. On to power rankings.
Yep. Power rankings. All right.
Woohoo! The final power rankings of this year? Question mark.
Yes, for the home and away season. This is the last ones.
Okay. I'll kick it off with Brisbane, Collingwood, Melbourne. He's at Carlton and Port Adelaide, running up that top 5. Elijah and I had a huge discussion about Collingwood being on top or not. I personally think they should be on top. Elijah does not agree. And are we ready to have this debate? Let's have this debate.
All right, let's do it again. Let's hear your piece first.
Collingwood deserved to be on top with power rankings due to the fact that they finished on top in the home and away season. They played really well during the season. Yes, at the end they had they didn't play too standard, but ultimately they deserved to finish on top. And with that, being on top is worthy of a power rankings first position. And what else did I say, Elijah? I said, yeah, I think that was it.
Well,
I think that was it.
Yeah, I think it's about it too. I'm kind of coming from the point of right now, if you sat all the teams in a row and you had to put them in order, I don't even think Collingwood are top 3. All right, I think you could argue they could beat Port Adelaide, but I cannot see a world where they play tomorrow and they beat either Brisbane, Melbourne, or Carlton. So we've kind of optimized. What's the word for it? Can't remember. But yes, we kind of found a middle ground and put them in second. I just think Brisbane are the best team in the comp right now. They win on their home deck against a very feisty St Kilda. Beating out their defense, and I guess the form the teams are in too is kind of indicative of my feeling on them. So Brisbane on a 4-game winning streak going into finals. Collingwood lost to, what was that? The Hawks, Carlton, I guess to bring the games up again. They lost to Brisbane, Carlton, Hawthorn in the last 5. They came within 2 points of Adelaide in Adelaide. The only teams they beat was a very, I guess we know Geelong now, very old, woeful, not feeling it really. They're going to start rebuilding. And a 3-13 Essendon. Which, oh boy, and you see in our power rankings where Essendon is, we're not feeling it. So, oof. In terms of where they stand right now, I cannot see them making much noise in the top 4. Like, they'll be competitive against these there. The fifth, not fourth, but 5th to 8th kind of area, of course. But I can't see where, they travel to Brisbane and they're going to beat Brisbane. It's going to be a very hard ask right now, especially with Darcy Moore's out, which I have my takes on.
He's back first final.
He's back. Okay. I guess he's back in the defense.
Nick Dacos is back on prelim.
Okay. All right. Well, can they even make it to prelim? Who knows? So they'll play Melbourne and then probably Carlton, Sydney.
If they lose.
If they lose, yes. But if they can't make it, then, well, that's what my thoughts are on that. And, we'll see how that changes over the next week.
We will discuss more next week.
I just don't think Collingwood's really got the firepower to be up there with those clubs. Whereas Brisbane, Melbourne, Carlton, they've proven they can beat teams convincingly. And, they recently as well, right? They've got good form coming into finals. Collingwood, on the other hand, doesn't. They're 2 and 3. Whereas all those 3 teams I just said are all 4 and 1. So
fair enough. GWS St Kilda round out the 6th and 7th position. Pretty much where they are on the ladder. It's just interchangeable. Adelaide above Sydney. Adelaide deserve to be in the top 8, and they are a much better team than Sydney are at the moment. And Sydney go 9th. I would have preferred to see Gold Coast lower, but Elijah convinced me to keep them 10th. So they're 10th. Bulldogs, failure of the season. They are 11th. And Geelong and Richmond also interchangeable there as well.
Yep.
I'll let you handle the rest.
Yeah. So I guess even the Hawks lost to the Dockers, I guess they're higher. I guess Dockers' inconsistency, it's hard to see them kind of up. Next season, though, you'd expect them to do well. So the Hawks are in 14th, Freo in 15th. West Coast, coming out of the bottom 2, they're in 16th now. Good on them. They did lose to the Crows, but they're not playing like their last, at least recently. So, and they have North Melbourne also coming out of last to 17th. Where they're on the ladder, they'll get the second pick of the draft now. They kind of fumbled that, and then Essendon in last. 3-13 to Collingwood, and then was it last week? The week beforehand, they lose by 21 goals to the Giants. And then the week before that, they barely get over the line by 9 points to North Melbourne. So
sort of talks for itself about where they're at.
Exactly.
At the end of the season.
Exactly. Yeah. So they see about consistency and form for next season. They definitely got the list, the personnel for it, whatever. It's just getting more consistency, and so I know what that means, but they'll do it, I'm sure.
100%. Players of the round.
Yeah. Who you got?
And I'll kick us off with Tex Walker. Tex Walker, unbelievably so, kicking 9 goals for, as well as an honourable mention to Nick Larkey kicking 9 goals. They're both pretty interchangeable, but Tex Walker ultimately finishing second in the Coleman medal. He is a guaranteed All-Australian best 22 player for the first time. I think it's for the first time in his career.
I'm not sure.
Like a fine wine, he is the oldest player within the top 5 of the common medal, and he'll continue to do so next year, I feel. Tex Walker, 9 goals, 4.
Yeah. I have Toby Green
Mm,
from the
good
Giants. I mean,
choice.
they get the chocolates. You know, he got 4 goals. It's a shame I couldn't go to this game because it looked like a ripper. But yeah, I got him over Charlie Curnow and Larky and whoever else. They just played really well. Honorable mentions to Sarong and Brayshaw too. I did notice Brayshaw's missing from the 44-man All-Australian list, so not sure what's going on there. But honorable mentions to them. Toby Green, 18 touches, 4 goals, 2 behinds. Great game. Secured the Giants in the final spot.
On to funny moments.
Yeah.
Zooming past it now. Funny moments for me was when one of the trainers stole a candy snake from Marbio Chol during the break. That was pretty funny. He was mouth wide agape, and bro got snatched, and the assistant coach or trainer ate the snake. What else was there? There was the Ben Dixon moment discussing the bottom 10 teams, and then he goes to Adelaide, does a score review, and says, "You're not in the top 8." So a bit of a kick in the guts for them. What else was there? There was Joe Danaher's miss from like 10 meters in front, just hitting the post. Bit of a Harry Mackay moment. I feel like a Harry Mackay moment should be a segment in this podcast. And I think there was one more. I think so, but I can't remember. What did you find funny, Elijah?
I didn't find much during the week, but the Cats Mad Monday was a
Yes.
ripper. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Ben Keys and goalposts, dress up there, brilliant stuff. But
Billy Brownless doing score review.
yes, yeah, that's all good. Well, that's the one thing that didn't happen on the on that week. So, look, jokes aside, it was very, very, once again, good Bad Monday from the Cats. They do it every year. It's sad to see some of these good ideas maybe going away as these players start to retire, but yeah, it's nice stuff.
They'll hopefully continue they'll continue the tradition.
Yes.
For the young players, because younger players like Henry dress up as Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And that was actually, this leads me to a bit of an angry moment. Yes, as much as the Geelong Mad Monday was absolutely insane, half the team list came as a Harry Potter character. I feel like that is not unique whatsoever. Yes, they dress up as a character, and yes, it may have been a group thing, but I would have liked to seen some individuality, like Zach Tui coming with deer antlers. That's all he came as. That was the funniest but most unoriginal costume I've ever seen. And the other thing that probably makes me angry is North Melbourne deciding to win and sort of choking that Harley Reid pick, which I'll probably get either way. But once you discuss your angry moment, I'm actually going to tell you something very interesting, Elijah, in the final comments.
Yeah, cool. What did I get angry at? I guess just Essendon's performance as of recent, because they shouldn't be performing that way. And I guess to further extent, people backing the Bulldogs and saying what they're doing is okay, because they should be pushing for top 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of a general thing. Like, they should be pushing the top four. There's no reason why they should be doing this. The list is good enough for it too.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%.
it's all the different personnel, and it's this one big blaring thing of coach question mark. And I think that's what needs to change in the off season. I mean, people defending that are kind of not quite aware of what's happening.
Fair enough. Final comments, Elijah. Before starting the podcast, this episode, I saw an Instagram post where Melbourne could potentially get Harley Reid. And how they do so is they trade their pick 13 and 15 for a pick 4. They trade pick 4 and another pick to West Coast or North Melbourne, and they get pick 1, resulting in Melbourne getting Harley Reid.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I saw the post. I'll try and find it again, but it was something along those lines.
There's no way North Melbourne and West Coast is giving up anything unless it's for Petrarca. Because I guess North Melbourne, they're wanting Harley Reid, and I guess West Coast probably looking at Curtin as their pick. I would think.
Another thing that I saw was if North Melbourne get a priority pick, they want one for next year. Not just a priority pick, they want a priority pick so then they can get a certain player. I think his last name is like Flanders or Sanders, Aboriginal player.
Okay.
So they want, if they were to get some form of compensation, which Adelaide should probably be getting because of the Gold Coast incident. North Melbourne want a certain player. They don't want a certain pick. They want a certain player to come to their club, which is what I find interesting.
So how about instead, unless he's going to pick 1, you just use the pick you haven't to get him. All right, North?
Because they're scared someone else is going to steal him. But on another note, Chunkle Jath's brother is in the draft this year as well.
True. He's linked with Hawthorn through their academy as well. Also, Liam Henry from Freo requesting for Fremantle, and ironically enough, Brockman requesting a trade to WA. I think the trade writes itself. Just switch it. I guess you could probably throw in a really low rating draft pick in there too, like 40 whatever. For this or next season.
Would Brockman be that? Would Brockman be that next Michael Walters player?
Maybe. But it just depends where Freo wants to move. But I think the trade writes itself. Like Liam Henry for Brockman and like a 3rd round 2023 pick. Done. Writes itself, I think. So.
Well, I've got nothing else to say. Do you have anything else to say?
Not entirely. It's been an okay season. I guess Charlie Kerner gets the Carlman. Brownlow's, who knows, right? That could be Dacos, it could be Bont, it could be Butters.
Petrarca.
I think merits a sneaky chance in that race too. I'm not sure when the Brownlow actually is. But
it's the Monday before grand final.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So then I think those are some sneaky picks for that. But it'll be an interesting race. I think I can't remember what year it was. It was 2021 maybe when Ollie Wines won it. No, I don't think much people had Ollie Wines on their radar, but he got it. I think Zach Merritt. It might be a hot take, but I think Zach Merritt's kind of in that race because even though they got demolished by Collingwood, he still played really well, right? And does it every week. So I feel like he's kind of a sneaky chance, but it might just be me.
Fair enough.
And I guess All Australian 44-man squad is also out. So AFL.com, you can read all that out. Every team's got someone.
I'm gonna get angry with that next week.
Really?
I'm gonna get angry next week.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Now
there are a couple players that aren't in there, and there are a couple players that are in there that deserve to be out and some players who deserve to be in.
It's fair enough. I guess in the 44-man squad is not everyone, right? I feel like, yeah, I'd say like maybe Taranto. I feel like Brayshaw probably opted out, both of them, because I didn't see any reason why they wouldn't be in there otherwise. But like Taranto probably should be in there. Other names, but I feel like every club has someone in that 44-man squad. Go check it out. Even West Coast and North Melbourne, even if it's just Lucky and Oscar Allen. So yeah,
that's another episode coming to a close.
Yeah.
That is Jakob and Elijah from the Premiership Podcast signing off. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and go see the Twitter poll.
Thank you. Finals, brackets, and everything all next week. I'll see you then.
Ciao, ciao.